The college football playoff is almost here, and CBS Sports has it projected to be the following way. Before we get into that, though, make sure y'all subscribe to Big Game Energy and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. CBS Sports has it like this: the 4 bye weeks they project to be Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, and Texas Tech 1 through 4. Then the first round would be Texas A&M hosting North Texas, Oregon hosting Virginia, Ole Miss 7 hosting Alabama at 10, and Oklahoma at 8 hosting Notre Dame at 9. James, what are your thoughts on these projections?
Wow, I can't believe we're almost here. It's Christmas already for college football fans like myself and you, Spence. But no, man, I will say this. I think CBS gets it a bit wrong here because I guess they're projecting that the Big Ten title game is going to be a close one. But what if it's not a close game? Let's say Ohio State beats Indiana 24-3. Are we really giving Indiana a bye after getting beat in the Big Ten title game? Now, I'll say this. I wouldn't want that. But we already know this whole playoff system is just going to be raw emotion. People are going to hate it no matter what. So when I look at this, Spence, let's just dive into it. We already know for sure, whatever happens in the Big Ten title game, we got Ohio State and Indiana coming in. We know that. So there's 2 in. If you think Georgia's the SEC champ after versus Bama this upcoming Saturday, we're putting Georgia in. So there, you got 3 teams in. I'm going to go with Tech over BYU. I don't think BYU has a chance. That's just me. We've already seen it played once. Yeah, it might be a tighter game because they've already seen some film, but I think Tech gets through. So there's 4 teams we already get secured. So we got Big Ten, SEC, and then we got the Big 12 champ. Let's just pray on all God's earth. Virginia beats Duke. Let's just pray that. Let's get that out the way. We need Virginia to beat Duke so nobody complains about needing a 16-2014 playoff. So we have those 5 teams in. Now this is where we get fun. Obviously, Spence, I think me and you agree. A&M's got a 11-1 record. Pretty impressive. Yeah, they lost to Texas. Yeah, their wins aren't really versus any top tier SEC teams, but you got the win versus Notre Dame, who's number 9, and that's on the road. So that's pretty impressive. So they're in. You got Ole Miss, who they're looking on in. They only loss really is to Georgia. Georgia's the number 3 team. That's pretty impressive. So you got 2. So we're now at 7 teams, Spence. Then you go to Oklahoma, who they're sitting on the cusp of 10-2. Their losses are to Texas, who are to 14, but they beat Bama, who's number 10. That's pretty impressive to my eye. And they beat Michigan, so that's another impressive win. They're in. Spence, now we're at 8. So we only have 4 spots left. And this is where everything gets kind of crazy. We get one group of 5 team. We'll just split hairs. We'll call it Tulane, North Texas. Who gives a crap?
North Texas is favored right now, but for the record.
For the record, yeah. For the record, hey, yeah. What after the head coach for Tulane went to Florida? Yeah, I can see why North Texas is favored in that game.
They've low-key been a wagon lately.
Dude,
North Texas.
an over wagon.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, dropping buckets. So then we have 9. So 3 spots remain, and the debate is obviously and this is where I get into it, Spence. If Texas Tech blows out BYU, this puts Miami right at 11, at least the 11th best team in the nation. And that's where now we're going to have to compare apples to apples on Notre Dame. And are we going to screw head to head? That's me. Are we going to screw head to head? Because that's the hardest part. Because if they both have the same records, yes, I know Miami put them in the spot. They didn't need to get into it. They've beaten all the same regular teams. If you want to give Notre Dame the nods, they beat Syracuse 70-7, and Miami beat Syracuse 38-10. They're still blowout wins at the end of the day. But the head-to-head matters in my eye. Does it matter in your eye? The head-to-head.
It definitely matters to me because, all year long I've been begging for a way for Notre Dame to not make the playoff. But now that it's here, since we'd been talking about that, they haven't lost any games. They've just won all their games.
Just won all their games.
They've just been winning, and it's been a flawless campaign since they lost those 2 games at the beginning of the season. So I think how you're playing recently should matter. As much as I say it, I think agree. Notre Dame deserves to be in because they've won all their games. But a couple of hiccups at the beginning of the season, but they've won all their games. And Miami, their losses are just too bad to overlook. I can't get over these losses.
I know. They lost to Louisville, freaking at home, unranked, and then they lost to an unranked SMU team who lost their bid to Cal to the ACC title game. It's weird how this went down, Okay, fine. So let's add Notre Dame and Miami. We're kicking out BYU in the CBS projections. So now that it leaves one spot left, the biggest question is really for everyone. If Alabama loses to Georgia and they are 10-3 and they're SEC runner up, are you kicking them out? And if so, who are you putting them over?
Yeah, this is tough because this is where the college football committee is going to have to make a decision. Is the conference championship game going to be looked at as a week 0 playoff game, or is this simply something that you should get a pass for losing in your conference title game? And I'm kind of torn on this because it's a big game. It should mean something. So a loss should carry some weight for you as well. However, you should also get some credit for earning your way to your conference title game. So I don't know where I land on this, but I'll say this. I know the argument will be, well, a 3-loss Texas team should be able to make the college football playoff. And we're talking about Bama, they'd have 3 losses. I think there's a huge difference, obviously. This isn't anything crazy for me to say, but newsflash, a 10-win team is better than a 9-win team. So even if they both have 3 losses, Texas still, I don't see a path for them to get in. You shouldn't have lost to Florida. That period. Yeah. That's it. I don't care that you lost to Ohio State and Georgia. You shouldn't have lost to Florida.
And you know what's going to happen too, because I agree with you. If Bama's a 10-3 team and they got a 3-loss record in the SEC title game, but they actually did beat Georgia, unlike Texas. But you know what's going to happen? I open that can of worms, and guess what happens? Well, Texas beat Oklahoma. Bama didn't beat Oklahoma. Ah, damn. All right. Well, Texas didn't beat Florida. They shouldn't get in. Bama didn't beat Florida State. Ah, damn. So, Spence, what the okay, hold up. In all honesty, let's say if you were to kick out Alabama for losing to Georgia in the SEC title game, who would you put in as that last spot? Are we picking a 10-2 Vanderbilt who did not beat Alabama, or are we picking 9-3 Texas? Because I just don't see Utah getting in on this party. I think Utah is just way too far out.
It wouldn't be Utah. I would say if there's any Big 12 team, it would be if BYU loses, then I would think they might get some consideration, but they're sitting at 11 right now. What would be more interesting is if BYU were to get the win. And so that means each of BYU and Texas Tech have 1 loss to each other. I think they both have to make it, me personally. So I think they both would make it. I think A&M would jump up into the top 4 and get a bye week. So you'd have 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten teams on the byes, and then you'd have Georgia and Bama would both be playing in round 1, and you'd have
they'll make sure they'll find a way to reseed it stupidly just to make sure they find
if that were to happen, I would think they would get some consideration also. If BYU loses, though, they're done. They've lost to Texas Tech twice. I don't want to see them in the playoff.
Agree.
But between Miami and Texas, I know Texas fans are gonna hate to hear this. And maybe I'm biased because I am an unapologetic Longhorn hater, but I also think I can be objective at times. If you're a 3-loss team, and if you lose a game to a terrible Florida program that fired their coach in the middle of the season, I don't think you deserve to get in, because these are those losses that back whenever it was a BCS top 2 in the national championship, when it was a 4-team playoff, that's a loss that when you had it happen in the moment, you knew it ended your season. Now we have a 12-team playoff, and those losses kind of don't come up until the end of the season, and that's where we're at right now. You shouldn't have lost to Florida if you're Texas. Nope. If they beat Florida, we're not having this conversation. They're comfortably in at 10-2.
Comfortably, yeah. And you know what's crazy? If they would have beat Florida, we wouldn't judge any of their other games, but you're a 3-loss team. You mentioned it. You got blown out by Georgia, who Alabama's beating Georgia. Yeah, you lost to Ohio State, whatever. And you said, oh, what if I would have scheduled a cupcake team? Okay, well, guess what? You went to overtime with one of the worst SEC teams in Kentucky. You struggled in OT victory versus Mississippi State. So your resume is not as impressive. Now, yes, the rank wins do matter, I guess. You know, they do, because you beat Oklahoma, you beat A&M, and you beat Vanderbilt. But those losses and the poorly other games played is just hanging over them like low fruit. I will say this, Spence. If Alabama is to lose to Georgia, because I'm already booking it, Texas Tech's beating BYU. If Bama loses to Georgia and they're deciding on who to put in, they better find a way to either put Bama in or Miami in. I think that's the only way you do it right. You cannot put Vanderbilt in. As much as Diego Pavia's little clan's going to be coming up here, and Heisman. Because you mentioned, if you kick Bama out because they lost to the title game to a team that they beat head to head, and they would have the same record if Bama didn't go to the title game, we're going to lose the conference title games, and just we're going to go off a regular season ACC Big 12 champs, kind of like how basketball does it.
Yeah.
They're the champs during the season, then they're the champs for the tournament.
I think it's inevitable that we head to that in the future. I think conference championships will be a thing of the past because, like I said earlier, they have to make a decision. Are they going to look at these championship games as, all right, this is basically a week 0 of the college football playoff, or is it something you're not going to penalize them for, in which case it doesn't matter, why are we playing these games? Also, another thing that's going to be done away with, we haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but I think this is the last year that we have a group of 5 team get an automatic bid. I don't think that's going to happen after this year unless Tulane or North Texas goes in and competes. They have to compete with what looks like it's going to be either Texas A&M or Oregon at the 5 seed.
Yeah.
That is going to be how they can keep their automatic bid. Also, what do you think, James, before we finish up? What do you think about the Doomsday Scenario where Duke beats Virginia and we don't have the ACC winner in, and we have like JMU somehow sneak in?
Dude, it would be only right. But I know in the back of my head, I just cannot. It'd be like imagining the college basketball March Madness, and a team is like 6-25, but they won their stupid conference and they don't get the automatic bid because that's always been the rule. That's how I would feel. As much as I wouldn't want to see a team get in, technically they did win their conference. I can't hate on, but what I don't get is I need to look into it. How did Duke have the same ACC record as like 4 other teams? Georgia Tech beat them straight up, and somehow Duke got in. That's the part I'm losing my mind over, because I get Pitt beat Georgia Tech, Miami beat Pitt, Georgia Tech beat Duke, and Duke didn't beat anyone, but somehow Duke made it in. And that's the part I'm a little confused on, because I just thought head-to-head matters. But ACC, blunders, man, of a conference.
ACC, ASS. But
Yep.
y'all let us know in the comments who belongs in the college football playoff in 2025. Y'all let us know down below. And make sure you check back next week when we have the full college football playoff slate and we give you predictions and preview for those games.